Before I had my first $1 million at the age of 25, I was a construction worker, working 15 hours a day, toiling hard under the sun every day. I used to think, as long as I try hard enough, work hard and save, life will change. But the truth is, the more I worked, the more stuck I got. Debt increased, my body was exhausted, and the future was bleak. The only things I had after 4 years were stomach ulcers, hormonal disorders, and a bank account that was always near zero. Have you ever asked yourself like I did, what secret do rich people have that they don't need to struggle to make money every day yet money still flows in? While billionaires like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett also eat 3 meals a day, they still have to take off their clothes to shower just like you and me. What makes them any different? Everything only changed when I stopped chasing money and started learning how to make money chase me. I discovered rich people don't focus on salary, they focus on assets, and they let those assets work for them. 24/7. In this video series, I will share the journey from a poor laborer to owning my first $1 million in 3 years. Not to brag, but so you believe, if I can do it, you can too. I believe the next dollar millionaire is you after watching this video to the end. And today, I will share with you 5 types of assets that the ultra-rich in America always hold, helping them get richer and richer despite any crisis. Watch until the end and comment to let me know. Which asset do you want to own first? Okay, let's get started. First, owning equity in a company opens the door to real wealth. Rich people don't get rich from wages, they don't trade time for salary. Instead, they own assets that generate profits, and one of the most powerful assets is ownership in a business. Equity not only brings passive income through dividends, but also provides control, influence, and asset value appreciation over time. That's why truly rich people keep getting richer. Not because they work more than you, but because they own the growth of an entire company. Real-life example, Elon Musk doesn't take a salary from Tesla because the shares he holds in Tesla are what made him the richest person in the world. His wealth skyrocketed not because he worked overtime, but because the company he owns grew. Rich people don't buy working hours, they buy the future. They invest in companies with growth potential, especially from the early stage. A young startup today can become a billion-dollar unicorn tomorrow, and if you hold shares from the start, you'll grow with it. How can you also own equity? One way is to invest in early-stage startups like in the Shark Tank show. The second way is simpler, and you can do it too. Buy long-term growth stocks. This is also the investment philosophy that billionaire Warren Buffett has followed for nearly a century. Companies like Tesla, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon were once doubted names before they increased in value by 10, 20, even 100 times. The third way is to work in exchange for equity. Instead of taking full salary, negotiate to receive part of your compensation in equity if you work at a startup. This helps you become a co-owner, not just an employee. Mindset to have, don't just ask, how much am I paid? Ask, what do I own? Ownership creates wealth. Employment only creates living expenses. If you truly want to change your life, start the journey of becoming an owner, not just a worker. The second asset is high-end real estate, a financial leverage and stable income source. Rich people don't just buy homes to live in. They own real estate because it generates consistent passive income, can appreciate over time, and especially can be used as collateral to borrow more for investments. Real estate is a money printer for you when used correctly. Long-term rental, Airbnb, commercial use, or even leveraging bank loans to expand your portfolio. So why is real estate called the money printer of the rich? And how can you get started? Real-life example, Grant Cardone is a real estate mogul in the United States. Owning over $1 billion in rental assets, he doesn't buy homes to live in, he buys large apartment complexes, uses other people's money like loans to acquire cash-flowing assets, and uses that cash flow to repay the debt. How can you also invest in real estate? First, buy rental property. Find areas with good cash flow, profits greater than costs, use leverage to buy and rent it out. Second, invest via real estate investment trusts, abbreviated as REITs. If you don't have enough capital to buy property, you can invest through real estate investment trusts, REITs, like Vanguard Real Estate ETF abbreviated as VNQ, or Realty Income Corporation abbreviated as O. You can start with just a few $100s. Third, smart Airbnb. Rent a house, renovate it, then sublet it through the Airbnb model, generating much higher profits than long-term rental. Mindset to have, the first question in your mind should be, can I own something that generates monthly income while someone else pays the debt for me? That's how the rich view real estate, not as a place to live, but as a money-making tool. The third asset is venture capital and private equity, the gateway to the billion-dollar world. When a company is still small, its shares are cheap. When it succeeds, the value increases 100-fold. The rich understand this and invest in startups very early. Have you ever wished you had invested in Facebook, Tesla, Amazon, or TikTok, back when they were unknown? Rich people don't wish they act. They see opportunities when others still doubt, and this is how they multiply their wealth by 10, 50 times with a single move. Venture capital and private equity are where the world's richest place big bets. Just one successful investment can multiply their wealth by 20, even 100 times. If chosen right, I believe it's even faster than winning the Mega Millions or Powerball lottery. Real-life example: Peter Thiel, the first investor in Facebook with just $500,000, turned that amount into over $1 billion when the company IPO'd. So how can you get involved? First, use open venture capital platforms. In the United States, platforms like AngelList, Republic, or Seed Invest allow small investors to access startups. Second, work at a startup and receive equity. Joining a startup early can grant you shares, a valuable asset if the company succeeds. Third, partner with someone experienced. If you lack capital or experience, invest with those who have a strong track record. Mindset to have: ordinary people just want certainty. The rich accept calculated risks because the greatest rewards lie where few dare to go. The fourth asset is a trust account, to preserve wealth across generations. I once heard of a get-rich-quick trick that young, beautiful girls often try, or guys with great bodies marry a billionaire, then divorce to split the assets. Sounds funny, but the rich aren't that easy to play. They earn billions because they have a billionaire mindset. You're worried about this month's money? They're planning for the next 500 years. So how do you plan for the next 500 years? It's through a trust account. This is the tool that helps them. Avoid inheritance tax, avoid asset division in divorce, protect assets from lawsuits, and protect future generations from bankrupting the family themselves. Real-life example: the Rockefeller family is one of the wealthiest in America and has maintained its wealth for over 6 generations thanks to a solid trust structure. Assets are continuously allocated, protected, and reinvested. How can you use a trust? One is set up a living trust, helps you manage your assets while alive and transfers them smoothly after death without probate court. 2 is irrevocable trust, protects assets from lawsuits or legal liability. 3 is dynasty trust, helps preserve wealth across generations and optimize taxes. Mindset to have: if you only think about today, you'll always struggle with money. The rich think 100 years ahead, and they act for that future. Have you ever wondered, why do the rich still live lavishly, fly first class, stay in 5-star hotels, yet their money keeps growing? They don't use cash, they use debt. But not the kind that traps them. It's premium credit that generates constant cash flow, earns returns, and still preserves their wealth. And this is the secret weapon that very few people know about. That's the fifth asset: premium credit, the secret weapon few people take advantage of. The rich don't use cash. They use unlimited credit as financial leverage, keeping their cash invested elsewhere while still maintaining a luxurious lifestyle. Instead of withdrawing savings, they use premium credit cards like Amex Centurion, JP Morgan Reserve, or open credit lines worth millions of dollars backed by collateral. Real-life example: a businessman in New York used a $10 million real estate property to open a $7 million credit line, avoiding taxes on withdrawals and gaining flexible capital to invest in startups. How can you access premium credit? First, build a high credit score. A FICO score above 750 gives you access to many perks and high credit limits. This may be the most important part of the millionaire-billionaire journey. Try naming 5 or 10 rich people you know. I bet all of them have excellent credit. I shared a method the other day to raise your credit score from 480 to 789 quickly. Anyone can do it if they know how the rich do it. The video is linked in the description and comments. Second, open a secured credit line with assets. Use stocks, real estate, or investment accounts as collateral. Banks lend up to 70 to 90% of their value. Third, use credit cards wisely. Pay on time, leverage cashback offers, earn travel points, business class tickets, luxury hotels without paying interest. Mindset to have: don't ask how much money do I have, ask how much money can I borrow wisely and legally. You can start from zero just like I did, but you must start with the right mindset because that's the greatest asset you can build. Poor people ask, how much do I earn? Rich people ask, what assets do I own? If you're ready to change your mindset and your life, comment right below, "I want to own assets," to mark today as your new beginning. And if this video made something click for you, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next videos where I share how to make money online and manage personal finances effectively from my journey of starting with nothing, no capital, no experience, no connections to reaching my first $1 million in 3 years, from age 22 to 25. Along with the right mindset to reach the financial dream, I had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn summarized from my own mistakes. See you in the next video where the mindset of the rich will no longer be a secret. It's just you and your choice today. Wishing you health, peace, and good luck. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to share what I have. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Don't let this value fade. Please like, share, and comment your thoughts below.